Try to remember what you had for lunch 3 weeks ago. Not last Tuesday, 3 Tuesdays ago. The middle of an ordinary week, an ordinary month, in your ordinary life. You can't. That day still happened. You were there for all of it. 24 hours of being alive, of seeing things, of having thoughts, of moving through the world. You ate 3 meals. You had probably 100 small conversations. You felt warm, hungry, bored, tired. You walked from one room to another more than 50 times. All of it is gone. Not faded, not partial. Gone. And it isn't just that day. It's almost every day of your life. You believe you have lived a long, full life, and you have. But the amount of it you can actually access, the amount of it you still hold inside your head, is shockingly small. How small? That's where it gets uncomfortable. Let's start with what your brain actually does with a day. In 1885, a German psychologist named Hermann Ebbinghaus did the strangest experiment in the history of memory science. He spent years memorizing meaningless syllables and then testing himself, hour by hour, to see how quickly they slipped away. He produced what is now called the forgetting curve. Within 20 minutes of learning something, he had lost roughly 40% of it. Within an hour, more than half. Within 24 hours, he was down to about 30% retention. By a week later, he had lost over 90%. The class you sat through 3 weeks ago, the meeting you had 4 months ago, the entire month of March 2 years ago, all of them gone within the time frames Ebbinghaus measured. These numbers have been replicated thousands of times since, in every form of memory researchers can test. You forget half of anything you didn't actively try to remember within hours of experiencing it. This isn't a flaw. This is your brain working exactly as it was designed. For 300,000 years, your ancestors needed to remember what mattered for survival. Where the water was, which plants were poisonous, which faces in the tribe were dangerous. They did not need to remember a casual conversation from 3 weeks ago. So the brain evolved to discard almost everything by default and only retain what was emotionally salient, unusual, or repeated. Most of your life is, to your brain, none of those things. It is normal. It is forgettable. So it is forgotten. But the deeper machinery is even stranger. In a series of landmark studies starting in the early 2000s, neuroscientist Giulio Tononi at the University of Wisconsin showed that one of the major functions of sleep is to actively erase memories. Every night, while you sleep, your brain physically prunes synapses. It reduces the wiring it strengthened during the day. The neural connections that haven't proven important enough are quietly disconnected. The ones marked emotionally or semantically significant are kept. Everything else is overwritten by the morning. You don't lose your day passively. Your brain takes it apart. This is why the day after a big event still feels vivid, but the days between big events blur together. The brain is doing what it was built to do, keeping the signal, deleting the noise. The problem is that most of your life is noise, and the noise is most of your days. The ones where nothing went wrong, the ones where you were content, the peaceful ones, the ones that, by every emotional and biological measure, were the best days you ever had. Gone, because there was no alarm telling your brain to keep them. In 1986, a Dutch psychologist named Willem Wagenaar made himself a test subject in one of the longest memory studies ever conducted. For 6 years, he kept a meticulous daily diary, every significant event with details written down. Then he stopped writing, and he waited. Years later, he tried to recall the events in his own diary. He gave himself prompts, the location, the people, the topic, and tried to retrieve the details. He could fully recall about 28% of the events. That was Wagenaar, a trained memory researcher, studying his own carefully written records of his own life. The other 72% he could not reconstruct. And these were events he had once thought worth writing down. The truly ordinary days, the ones not written, not photographed, not anchored to anything, were gone before he could even attempt the recall. If you live an average lifespan, you will experience roughly 28,000 days. Researchers who have tried to count how many specific days a typical person can remember in detail come up with numbers that horrify people. Around 200. Out of 28,000, less than 1%. The rest of your life is, in a real sense, lived for nothing, by no one, even by you. But here's the part nobody talks about. The few memories that survive are not the right ones either. In 1977, psychologists Roger Brown and James Kulik coined the term flashbulb memory for the kind of vivid recollections people form during emotionally charged events. The day a family member died, a first kiss, a car accident. For decades, these were considered the most reliable kind of memory. They felt sharp. People recalled tiny details. They were certain of what they had seen. But when researchers actually compared these memories to verified records, newspapers, photographs, video, they found that flashbulb memories are not more accurate than ordinary ones. They are just more confident. The most vivid memories you have of your life are about as reliable as your memory of a random Wednesday. They feel sharper because the emotion of the moment was sharper, but they have been quietly rewritten every time you recalled them for as long as you have been alive. There is no part of your life that survives untouched. The early childhood years are almost completely gone. The middle adult years compress into a few standout moments. The last few years feel real, but most of them are already starting to fade. And here's what almost nobody understands. You don't have a life. You have a highlight reel of a life. A few hundred specific scenes drifting in a vast ocean of forgotten, ordinary days. Months that you cannot account for. Whole stretches of years that, if you tried to reconstruct, would come back to you only as a blur of seasons and a few faces. There is no record. There is no backup. The photographs you took were taken of moments already deemed worth photographing, which means even your archive is heavily edited toward the same kinds of moments your brain already keeps. The biographer of your life is also the editor, and the editor cuts almost everything. But here is the strange gift of it. The forgotten life still shaped you. Every conversation you don't remember helped wire the brain you're using to read this. Every meal you can't recall fed the body you're sitting in. Every day that vanished added something to the person you became. You are not made of the memories you kept. You are made of the days you forgot. The Greek poet Pindar wrote, 2,500 years ago, that human beings are creatures of a day. He meant we live briefly, but he might also have meant something else. We are, almost entirely, the days we no longer remember. The remembered ones are the exception. The forgotten ones built the architecture inside which the memory lives. Tonight, when you fall asleep, your brain will quietly delete most of today. You won't notice. You won't grieve it. By tomorrow, it will be gone in the same way every other ordinary day has been gone, as if it never quite happened. But it did. And the version of you who wakes up in the morning will be built, in some small, invisible way, on the bones of a day you no longer have. The life you don't remember is still you. You just won't be there for it. You never were.